You are about to enter a great adventure.
This is Strutting from Gorilla.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Strutting from Gorilla. I'm your host, Mango. I'm here with my three good friends, Anthony Loretto, also known as Vito, Mikey Cash, and leader of men, Bobby Stone. We have a very special episode today. For the first time, we have a guest with us. We are excited to have Vinny Berry, author of the book Lance by Chance, on the show. Our very first guest to the podcast. Welcome, Vinny.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Anytime. So we'll hop it over to Vito and Mikey Cash for a few questions.
Yeah, sure. So again, thanks for hopping on. Just to kind of give the listeners some background here. Lance by Chance basically is a book that followed the career of Lance Vaughn, known to many as Lance Von Erich, who joined the Von Erich family, but was not actually blood related. And the book covers the many ups and downs of being a professional wrestler and the pressures of being associated with one of the most famous wrestling families in the 80s. So it was a great read. I got to tell you, Vinny, it was a lot of fun. I haven't read a book in like since high school, and I read this one in about 2 days, which is pretty good. So it was a really good time. So I just want to start things off. How long have you been a wrestling fan, and what kind of inspired you to write the book?
Well, I was fortunate enough to grow up in Lewisville, Texas, which is 30 miles north of Dallas, and actually 10 miles from where the Von Erichs grew up. So, they were a part of our community. And though I didn't know them personally, it felt like we did, you know what I mean? Because we watched them on TV all the time. And, we had that emotional connection to the family. And, World Class Championship Wrestling was the first wrestling that I really started to follow and really fell in love with.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, down in that area. Now, back in the day, there were a lot of different territories with wrestling, right? It wasn't all just WWE and all the WCWs. There were a lot of territories, and a lot of that has gone away. And you shed a lot of light on the territories in the 80s. They don't really exist today. Do you think that that's impacting a lot of wrestling today, or no?
Well, absolutely. But, I had said to a friend of mine about maybe 10 years ago when all the independents were popping up, and I said, dude, it's almost like the territory scene is coming back, but it just looks a little different, Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, the territory scene's never going to come back. But being 10 years removed from that, and you see that, and let's take this past year out of the equation, right? Because it was different, no one expected COVID. That.
Yeah, right.
But then you had wrestling, in South Texas, you have wrestling in North Texas, you have wrestling here in San Antonio, you have wrestling in Houston. That's 4 different places that I know of in Texas. Oh, and then you've got Kingsville, or not Kingsville, but Bryan College Station.
Yeah.
So, there's places to wrestle, and I know places in, Kentucky and in Tennessee. And so, it's a lot. It is a little different. And I'm glad you picked up on that in the book. I spent a lot of time talking to David Manning.
Yeah.
And he kind of told me and taught me how the territorial system worked, how the NWA title worked and everything like that. And I really felt like it was important to include that information inside the book to kind of take people back to really what that era was like,
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, no, you did a really good job with that. And we talk about it all the time in this show. And like, without the territories that are there nowadays, you see this like constant robot wrestler. Like all these different guys used to learn so many different things from different territories. And there were some good stories in your book about that, on how Lance picked up some styles from different people. I think Abdullah the Butcher was one that he worked with, and there were some others. And you don't see that today because they have this performance center, and it's very tough to watch because everything's kind of cookie cutter. So we talk about that a lot on here. I don't want to spend too much time because we literally go off on tangents on it. But you did a great job of talking about the territories in the book, and it gave a great example of, world-class championship wrestling, and then the promotion up in Oregon, which was really great. So I thought you did a great job, but I know Mikey has some questions for you too.
Well, yeah, I was just curious, and again, I think the book does a really good job of sort of like paying homage to sort of just how great the territories were in forming a wrestler and sort of developing their skill set, not only just their in-ring work, but also like the way they cut promos and just learning to work from all these different sorts of guys, learning what works in front of one crowd versus another crowd. So I just thank you for kind of putting that in there. It shed more light because me, like my other co-hosts here, we weren't really alive during that time. We were kind of coming in on the tail end when WWF was sort of taking over. So this was it was a great window into that. So again, thank you. And so one of the questions I have is actually just about, talking about like the Lance Von Erich experiment itself. Like, do you think that there's been any impacts in terms of like, has it impacted kind of the risks or the different sort of like how far promoters are willing to go nowadays to sort of either get eyes or to keep eyes on the product?
Well, why don't you, a couple years ago, Kurt Angle, and they brought in the thing about Jason Jordan being his illegitimate son.
Yeah.
Was that ridiculous or what?
Yeah, great point.
That was ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah.
So, it's things like, here's the thing, when we talk about that, Lance could pass for a cousin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he really did. He had the square jaw. I mean, he had the hair color, the eye color, the bodies were great, right? You stick them all in a line, take Mike out of it, right? Take Mike out of the lineup. Yeah. But you got Kerry, Kevin, and Lance, and they were built like brick houses.
Yeah.
And what's so odd about this whole thing is Lance's dad, Waldo.
Yeah.
Yes, Waldo.
Gets no crap. Nobody gives Waldo any crap for not being a Von Erich, but Lance does.
Right. That's very true.
I mean, it's kind of a big issue that I kind of took away from the book, which was that, a lot of times, a lot of the blame tends to fall on the talent themselves. Right. And sometimes the promoters kind of like get off the hook for some reason. And I'm just wondering if you could shed any more light on that. I know you guys talked about it a little bit in the book.
Well, that is still a head scratcher. It's like me and Lance, I can't tell you how many times that me and Lance have talked about this one thing, this issue, and we'll turn blue before we figure out why. Fritz went on TV. He was like, all they had to do was call me. I would have done a loser leave town match.
Right. Yeah.
Anything. But you got to remember, Fritz needed the Von Erich name on the marquee every day, and they were running 2 shows a day, 6-7 times a week. His boys, when of course David passed away, Mike Von Erich ended up getting sick. When the boys had injuries, like at one time Kevin Von Erich had a shoulder injury, and then Kerry had the motorcycle accident, and Lance was the only Von Erich. Right.
Yeah.
And he for a period a few months, he was the only Von Erich. And so if they didn't have that, Fritz would have really been in trouble, right? Because he needed his kids. His kids carried the promotion. So but when it came time for him to leave, there was a stalemate. Lance says that I never came out and said, hey, I wasn't making the money that I wanted. but I did question how small my paycheck was. And
Yeah.
so he didn't go in, they didn't call, and Lance was going through a divorce anyway. He's going through he wasn't very happy working at World Class. It was a bad time for him.
Yeah.
So he, I guess, was detaching, or maybe he, I don't know. I can't really speak for him, but I do know that he didn't call, they didn't call, and he was planning to do some traveling just to kind of get away and kind of push the restart button. And that's and he was planning to leave the country to do some traveling. He just never came back.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. We're on here again with Vinny Berry, author of Lance by Chance, the story of Lance Von Erich. No, those are really, really great, great parts of the story. You know, the other thing that I noticed that was really interesting, there's a lot of really good, I call them road stories, right? Where, you know, the guys do stuff outside of the wrestling ring. And I was just curious, which was your favorite out of all of them that kind of hit you the most? Because I know they had the one where I at one point, you know, Lance was out there, you know, basically smuggling guns across the border, which I found crazy. But such a wild thing after, you know, being such a high profile star in wrestling, you know. So I didn't know if you had one that particularly struck you.
Yeah, well, there was several that stood out. Of course, you know, we wrote a specific chapter up there for, you know, in Portland, you know, the Pacific Northwest Road Stories. There was a guy with a crossbow, like a rage, a road rage incident.
Ultimate road rage.
Yeah, and then of course the other story was with the tractor, or the storage unit detached from a truck that was
almost killed him.
Almost killed him. I think, you know, golly, here's the funny thing about Lance and doing this book and those stories. It's like I had an English teacher friend of mine who I'd bring stuff to her and say, hey, you know, just read this page and let me. And she was like, always giving me a hard time. You need more detail. I don't know. You know, you're not telling me anything. You're just being so basic and specific. And so I really started getting into describing this stuff, right? And so every time he'd tell me something, I'd say, okay, what color was it? Give me the details. What did they say? How were they acting? And he was like, whoa, you're not going to put that in the book, are you? And I was like, well, yeah, I was going to. Don't put that in the book. Okay. And then he'd tell me another story, and I'd say, well, I guess you didn't want me to put that one in the book. He goes, I don't care. Put it in the book. I'm like, dude, if I were you, I would pick this story and not that story. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. No, there were a lot of good ones on there. That's for sure.
You know, what's funny is, and we'll, you know, the story when he meets Billy Jack for the first time and he takes him to meet the boys in the hotel.
We were all talking about that one.
Part of that book.
And so you know, he basically walks in on somebody who's having sex, and they're just basically having sex right in front of him and the other people. You know, what's so interesting about that story is that at that time in Lance's life, it appalled him. I mean,
of course.
It really.
Yeah. What am I getting myself into here in this whole wrestling world?
That's exactly what he said. What have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
Then 2 years down the road, he's behaving the same way.
Of course. Yeah.
It's funny how that
you become one of the you become one of the guys, you know?
Yeah.
So
he just gets sucked into the world, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm just curious. So since the book has come out, what's been the response of people inside the business, people that, you know, Lance used to work with? Has there been any former wrestlers, promoters, anybody in there that sort of reached out to you in response to the book?
Well, I've heard. Let's see. The Chris Youngblood read it and was very pleased with it. Dusty Wolf and Jeff Bearden, and I worked with all those guys for the book. They all liked the book. James Beard read it. Other people, I can't. Off the top of my head, as far as wrestling people, I can't think. But there's a lot of people. I don't know if you guys ever read Gary Hart's book. I
haven't. I've heard Stone Cold kind of talk about it on his podcast once, and he highly recommended it.
Okay, I haven't read it. It's hard to get your hands on that because he had it printed and then he passed away, and he probably only did one run. And I've seen that book on the internet for $2,000. I'm not going to pay $2,000.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Tough go.
But I have had some people told me, and not just one person, that when it comes to world-class books, they said that my book compares to Gary Hart's as far as honesty of what was happening in the territory at that time.
Oh, that's remarkable.
I got to tell you, we didn't mention this earlier, but it was a really good read because even if you're not a wrestling fan, you did a really great job of explaining the different terms like kayfabe and work. And I mean, you really went into detail on that stuff, and it makes a big difference because there are some people who definitely don't know those industry terms. And I appreciated that a lot. It was great.
I'll tell you why I did that.
Please.
So I got two nieces that are in their 20s. They're very smart young ladies.
Yep.
And they're 21 and 22 or 20 and 21. Anyway, they're very, very bright kids. Go to college and everything, and they write, and they're very talented, and they read a lot. And so I gave them like 3 chapters, and they read 3 chapters, and both of them came back, and their one question was, who did you write this book for? And I said, I wrote that book for everybody. And they go, no, you didn't, because we don't understand what the hell you're trying to say.
Yep.
She says, you wrote it for one person, and that's the wrestling fan. If you want to write it for everyone, you need to do better in explaining what this stuff is, and that's why I did it the way that I did it, like that.
Yeah, it came across really well.
Absolutely, it did. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, you got to remember too, Lance knew absolutely none of this stuff.
Right.
He didn't, he didn't know what it was either.
Yeah.
And I think that's the really cool thing about him is that I could understand him going on television and breaking kayfabe, right? Because he has nothing to lose. He don't care. He didn't want to be a wrestler anyway.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But for someone like Fritz von Erich to do it,
right.
It was.
Yeah.
That was
kind of odd.
That was big. Yeah, I enjoyed the story about and I can't think of the gentleman's name who was kind of the one that opened everything up for when everyone said wrestling was fake, and he came out on and did the whole
Eddie Mansfield.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I thought that was a pretty interesting story with him and Lance too.
Yeah. What was kind of weird about all this was like I don't think Lance saw the movie, so he didn't get the joke, but I said, Lance, you're like the Forrest Gump of wrestling, dude.
Oh my God. I've been thinking about that because he's just like fallen into all of these wild situations. It's
right. I was like,
amazing.
You ran into Eddie Mansfield. You did this bike ride across Africa. You got bombed on a train. Like,
yeah. It's really, that's a great way to think about it. Actually.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it was so funny too, is, we ran into Eric Bishop too.
Yeah.
When he was down there in Florida. And, it's just really amazing how you look at this guy and he probably would have never been into wrestling ever, right? Had he not run into David Manning. But in some way, when you see his story laid out the way that it is in the book, he has a perfect spot in wrestling history.
He does.
You know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Speaking of the kayfabe part, though, the one thing that stuck out to me that I know me and Mike have talked about this before, but the part where he had to go to the funeral, and he had to still act as though he was the family member. He was actually a Von Erich. And I mean, that to me, I don't, do you think that went too far? Do you think it's just a sign of the times? Like today, that would never happen, right?
Absolutely.
Like it would just never happen like that.
Well, I mean, I have my opinion about it, right? I mean, if I was in Lance's shoes, I'd be uncomfortable in that situation too. I mean,
me too.
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't know him, I mean, I can understand, you know, well, we just had a neighbor. We lived, my family lived next door to a neighbor for 30 years. Well, I mean, he recently passed away. If his son and daughter invited me in that room, I would get it.
Yeah.
It would, okay, I get it. You know, I've known you since I was 10 years old, and you know, we've known you for 40 years, and I get that. But this was totally different.
Totally different.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have a relationship with Mike at all. I mean, he never had a problem with Mike, but they were co-workers, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Fritz kind of did carry that a little too far, and you know, just to I mean, that's really all I can say about it. There's nothing really to add.
No, there isn't. It's when you read this book, you guys will know what we're talking about. It's a very interesting story, and you should definitely check it out.
Oh, big time. Very interesting story. And I feel like we're all in agreement.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. So if you read the book, you read the chapter of Gino Hernandez, right?
We did.
The Gino Hernandez chapter? Okay. And so somebody questioned me the other day, and they said, well, I don't understand why Gino Hernandez got his own chapter, because Lance, you know, he makes it very clear, hey, I didn't know him very well. I was only in the territory for 4 months. And, you know, the reason why we did it that way in the book was because I lived there, you know, I was living there when that happened. And that was a huge deal. And I really wanted to set the stage of what was happening in that period when Lance was working there. And I just felt like that Gino Hernandez needed more than a paragraph, you know?
Yeah, no, agreed. No,
and
I thought it was
to him as well, you know, because he was a fantastic wrestler, you know?
Yeah, you know, I thought it did a great job of kind of showing what the work environment was like. And not only that, but like it's a look behind the scenes of professional wrestling at the time. Like it wasn't just him. I mean, look at all the wrestlers that were going around those days that were doing stuff outside of the ring, drinking, drugs, whatever it might be. And look how it tragically has ended up for a lot of them. So, you know, it definitely was something that I appreciated in the book. It just showed more of what the wrestling scene was like, and it was a little tribute to him. I mean, I gotta be honest, before this book I didn't know too much about that territory, so it's been great kind of doing some research on it. It's like a little bit before our time, but it's great. Like I really enjoyed it. We're all wrestling historians here. We all love wrestling. In fact, we would rather talk about wrestling in the past than probably in the future right now. So so it's good. It's really good. But having your insight on it's great. So
And when I was putting the book together, you know, because, you know, I love the Von Erichs. I mean, I loved them. I just thought they were amazing. And I couldn't tell you how proud I was just to know that they were right next door, you know,
of course. Yeah, that's great.
You know, right down the highway. Right. And so, you know, when it came to the tragedies and stuff, you know, it was like, I wanted to be tasteful, you know, but I wanted also too, if someone said, hey man, you know, I really want to, you know, get to know what World Class was all about. And I wanted them to pick up one book, man.
Right. Yeah.
And get it.
I wanted them to, you know, if you're going to get one book on World Class, to find out what happened there, I wanted them to go for mine, and that's
Right.
what I tried to do with this story, with this book.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it.
I do too. I do too.
It's inspired. I think it's what you were saying before. It's inspired all of us to sort of do our research now and just kind of sort of dive into that world. I mean, one of the beauties of the WWE Network has been able to at least dive into some of that stuff and be able to see the things that you just didn't get to really look into, things that we didn't really get exposed to because we were sort of coming into the world of wrestling at a much later time. So it's been really great to sort of just kind of immerse yourself into it and just kind of learn about it. And you can just see when you watch these old matches, those crowds were hot for the Von Erichs.
Yeah.
Wild, those pops.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, a lot of people say things like, you know, because I've been asked on a couple of shows, well, nobody believed it anyway, did they? I said, dude, they all believed it.
I would
drinking
yeah.
the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I would have too.
100%. I mean, at that time, you had people believing that that Yokozuna was actually a sumo wrestler. You know what I mean? Like it's like the same thing, and he's a Samoan. So they would have believed anything, and there was no internet, right? So you didn't have the Twitters and the everything of the world where it showed everything behind the scenes, and in some respects, kind of ruined the mystique of wrestling. But you know, I agree. I thought you did a great job explaining everything. Like I said, we don't know that era very well, so for me to dive into it and understand it all, it was awesome. It felt like I was right there. So, Mike, did you have any more questions?
So I guess I just had one question about it's kind of a general question about Lance's sort of, you know, what does he want people to take away from reading about his experience in just wrestling in general and in world class?
Well, he's a very peculiar guy. Okay, and I say that because people have asked him to write a book in the past, and he just never wanted to do it. And for whatever reason, when I came along and I asked him, he just said that there was just something different about me, that maybe he saw my enthusiasm, or I don't know what it was, but for whatever reason, he said yes with me, and we did it. But he didn't really want to write a book, and he really doesn't want to. You know, this book is probably the closest thing we're going to get to Lance. You're not going to see him at conventions. He's not doing signings. You know, he signed 600 labels for me, and he sent them to me. And they got hung up in customs for 5 weeks. That's a whole other story. But,
oh gosh.
But if you know, that's as close as we're gonna get, you know. And I think he just I just think he just wanted to just have an opportunity to say
tell
what
a
happened,
story.
you know, because everybody thinks they know what happened, and everyone believes you know, what they saw on TV, you know. And so I think that's what he wanted to do. It's funny is because I was trying to talk him into doing something like this. I said, hey, man, will you do a video chat with me, or do you want to do a video chat with me? He goes, I've already told you I don't want to do any of that stuff, but I will. I'll he's done a few, you know. He'll say, okay, I'll do it. But it really doesn't want to do it.
Right.
You know, and he goes back to he really didn't want to be in wrestling anyway, you know?
Right. Yeah.
The reluctant warrior. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of like I kind of get a little bit of like the Brock Lesnar treatment, right? Like he's this guy who like I just feel like is really good at what he did, but wasn't always so passionate about it, but had a moment of passion where he really figured out what he was doing and became really good at it, right? Like it's just very interesting how he took off so well, and he really wasn't super interested in it in the first place. But once he started to understand everything, you know, I feel like there was a really big period of time there where he was really passionate about it. And then like, I almost feel like he got beat down by the business, you know?
That's a good way of putting it, you know, and a lot of people think that his career ended after World Class. And it really went on for another 7 or 8 years, right? Overseas. And that's the time that he really enjoyed.
Yeah.
He just loved it. For one thing, he said he was making a little more money over there, but the fact of the matter was he could really pick and choose. He didn't have to rely. He had gyms over there, so he was making money. So he could wrestle a few times a month, or if he was going to be gone a weekend, he basically, if someone said, "Hey man, we're going to Bombay in India for a wrestling match, you want to go?" "Oh yeah, I've never been there before, I'll go." And that's how he was really taking his matches, and get to go to Malaysia, Singapore, wherever he got to go to wrestle. It's just, that's why he liked it better. And he'd always tell me too, when we're writing the book, ask me some questions from Africa. Well, because I can remember all that stuff. It was good. I don't remember. I pushed all that other stuff behind me. I said,
you can pick that up.
Yeah, that's the stuff I need.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah. There was a lot of juicy stuff there when he was overseas. Lots of interesting stories. Yeah. But no, we appreciate you coming on here. We'll, kind of the last thing we'll ask you here. Is there anything that you want to share with the people listening here that maybe haven't had a chance to read your book yet? You can, by the way, we're on here with Vinny Berry, the author of Lance by Chance, a story about Lance Von Erich. And you can actually hop on his website. It's lancebychance.com and purchase a copy of the book. So is there anything that you want to kind of say, final thoughts here for the listeners that maybe haven't had a chance to read your book yet?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised if they get into the book. They're going to find out not only how he got into wrestling, but how he got into bodybuilding too. That wasn't really, he didn't really pick that.
No, that's true.
And then you'll find out stuff about Portland and some wrestlers up there in Portland. You get to read a little bit about Bobby Jaggers and Billy Jack Haynes, and there's guys in there mentioned like Jerry Gray, of course. Don Owen is in there, and then you come to Dallas, and one thing that I like, somebody said to me the other day, because Bruiser Brody is in one of the chapters, and I could have put his name on that chapter, but there was a accumulation of different stories that I put him in this chapter. And somebody said to me the other day, says, "Wow, I loved reading about Bruiser Brody in your book, because everything else I've ever read about Bruiser Brody was that he was a bully and no one could get along with him. Yeah. And he would throw his weight around. And, that wasn't Lance's experience. Lance said, hey, the guy rarely drank. If he did, he drank a beer with us, but he didn't stay out at the bars. He was a loyal husband. He was a good father, and he was a loyal friend, and he was a hard worker, and he loved the business, and he defended the business, and so, he's very passionate, and another thing too that I like, and somebody said that the reason why they like my book was that they got to read about a lot of guys, a lot of wrestlers that did have some kind of impact on the business, but you really don't read a lot about them in the books. Chris Adams is in the book. Yeah, of course, Gino is. I had to put Ric Flair in because
I saw that.
Yep.
Ric Flair was, the champion at that time, and the only champion, NWA champion that Lance knew,
Right.
Yeah. And so I wanted people to walk away from what that era of time in wrestling was. And again, but it's kind of broken down in three parts. It's in that Portland area, you got the Dallas area, you got the stuff overseas, and then you just really get to and he's so honest. The one thing also too is he's not burying anybody in the book. He's not bashing. No. If he's burying anybody, it's himself.
Yeah, really. No, that's true.
Yeah. And he's definitely honest to a fault,
Yeah.
No, I think that's great in the book, and you can totally pick that up as you're reading it. That it's not some sort of berry job or anything like that. He's just there to kind of talk about his experience, and I think it's great that this is able to give him and those other wrestlers too sort of a voice in all this, and to be able to have those experiences shared where you may not have been able to get them otherwise.
Yeah, and the also too the thing about the quote in the front of the book by Kevin Von Erich.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to Kevin Von Erich and he sent that to me. That didn't come from a documentary or anything, you know.
Oh,
and
it didn't. Oh, wow.
I'll tell you how that. Now, there's some quotes from Kevin inside the book that came from a documentary, right?
Yes.
Yep.
But that quote in the front of the book, I'll tell you how that story turned out. So, do you guys know who Kenny Casanova is?
Can't say I'm familiar.
I don't know.
All right, he wrote Tito Santana, Kamala's book, Vader's book, Beefcake's book, Danny Davis.
Okay.
So he was my mentor on this project. So he I wouldn't be here talking to you guys right now if he didn't help me, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing, right? So he walked me through this process. And one night I'm at my computer and he's messaging me, how's the book coming along? Did you get that thing done? All right, don't forget, you still got to do this. And when are you going to send me that? And then all of a sudden he was like, how big are your nuts? And I was like, I said, what are you talking about? He goes, answer my question. How big are your nuts? And I was like, they're huge, dude. And he said, if they're huge, call this number. It belongs to Kevin Von Erich.
That's awesome.
So
and you called. And that's what he told you, huh?
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I waited till I got to a certain point with the book, you know, and then I reached out to him because I knew I was going to finish it in 2020.
Yeah.
And I probably got his number in maybe April or March or June or somewhere around that time. And I called him 3 times and left a message, like 3 Fridays in a row. And after the 3rd Friday, the next Saturday, he just texted me out of the blue. And we text for about 2 hours back and forth. And I told him, I said, look, you can write whatever you want. I don't care if you write, 20 words or 20 pages. You just write whatever you want. And I'll stick it in the book.
Yeah.
And he was, he just told me a reason why he didn't want to, and I don't think it's right. And did he ever tell you this? And did he tell you that story? And, did he ever tell you this? He was like,
right. Yeah.
And I said, yep, he told me all those stories. I've heard them all. And so then he said, well, I'm not going to do it. Oh, okay, fine. Thank you very much. See you later. A week later, he texts me out of blue. He goes, Vinny, I sure have been thinking about Lance and all those years ago, and just been thinking about it all week. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, about a week before I went to printing, I just reached out to him and just said, hey, before I go to printing, I just wanted to give you one last opportunity to give me a 2-sentence quote for the back of the book. And he just replied with that. And since it was so big, I stuck it in the front of the book and not on the back of the book, because I had other quotes on the back. So I took a couple sentences out of the big quote and stuck the big portion inside the book. And I'll end with this, was that Lance didn't want it in the book.
Wow. What did he think when you put it in there?
I told him, I said, I'm putting it in there. And he goes, well, I don't see why you have to put it in there. And I said, dude, we have to put it in there.
Yeah.
Sure.
For many reasons. And I spent almost 20 years in the television news business. And if you have a complaint about the road and you have a complaint because you need to widen the road, but this guy doesn't want you, we have to go get both sides.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt that it was important for Kevin to have an opportunity to do it. And I just felt like it needed to be in it. And, here's the funny thing about Lance is, even though he didn't want it in the book, he said, hey, if you think it needs to go in the book, put it in the book.
That's quite the
Trust.
story there. Yeah.
So that's how.
So, Vinny, you haven't heard anything from me at all because, unlike our two leads here, Fido and Mikey Cash, they've read the book. I've not yet. I'm certainly interested and will be in the near future. But it sounds like this is a really this has been a labor of love for you, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Why did you want to tell this story?
Well, it was one of those things that if I would see him on the internet or something like that, or come across a picture, he would just be one of those guys where I was like, whatever happened with that deal?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, we heard what happened, but everybody, even today, people think they know the story, and I used to have a friend of mine years ago when I was going to college. I met this friend of mine. His name was Mark, and I'd always say, hey, how do you do X, Y, and Z? And he goes, well, write a book on it. And I was like, well, how am I going to write a book on it if I don't know how to do it? He goes, well, if you write a book about it, when you're done with the book, you'll know how to do it. And you know what? That's kind of how what happened with this book.
Yeah.
I wrote the book and I found out how the story ended, and I'm real proud of the story, and I think if this is the one book I write, I think this was the book I was supposed to write,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you, man. What you guys saying that, it makes me feel good.
We wanted to give you a round of applause there, Vinny. And it sounds like something that we, Mike and Anthony have already enjoyed. Mango, how are you feeling? Is this something that you might be reading in the labor ward in the next couple of weeks there, brother?
Absolutely fascinating. This is it's really piqued my interest. Thanks, Vinny. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I really do.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure, check out our Twitter. It's _gorilla on the Twitter machine. And you can check out a link. I posted something there today, and there'll be a couple other postings with it's lancebychance.com for your opportunity to purchase the book if you want to read it. We highly recommend it here at Strutting from Gorilla. Highly recommend it.
Great read. Oh, and Vinny, one last thing. At some point, I'm hoping the video surfaces that from Kamala's camcorder during during the whole train incident. I think people would love to see that footage at some point if it ever gets.
Well, I talked to Kamala before he passed away. And I was asking him. I asked him if he had any kind of pictures or anything, and he said that. He said he had him around somewhere, right? But then he ended up passing away about a month later. Dusty Wolf said he saw the video. That he went to go visit him years later and saw the video that Kamala took on the train. But yeah, that would be amazing to see. It
would be.
It'd go viral.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, thank you for having me, guys. I really do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Vinny, thank you.
Come back anytime.
All right. You got it.
And there you have it. Our first interview here on Strutting from Gorilla. What a fascinating interview that was. I was like,
isn't it? It's even wilder when you read the book. It's even wilder when you read the book. It's amazing.
It is. I told you it was going to be good, and I was so excited for this episode because just the stories in this book, guys, it's like it's well written. Vinny does a really great job. And like you don't need like a law degree to read this book. I mean, you literally it's a very, very easy read, and he does a great job explaining everything.
And Vito, great job. You did your best Barbara Walters impersonation, and it was fantastic.
Thank you.
You were non-biased.
Yeah, you were great.
Yep. I kept everything PG. You know, I was.
I know, and you even, I'm surprised with your restraint. You actually kept yourself from going on a rant. You almost did. You caught yourself.
Thank you. I shut my mouth today.
So here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Do that next time too.
Okay.
Just keep that going. That's good.
Okay. I will. Thanks, guys.
We love you. We love you. We're just kidding.
Yep.
No, it was good. You know what was really fun about all of that was the fact that we're now 20 episodes into this, and this has been our own labor of love, right?
Yeah.
So to get that visibility from the outside, to get that visibility from authors like Vinny is actually it's rewarding, just in the sense that the work that we're putting out is actually being recognized, and that goes back to everybody who's still listening and supporting us. So we thank the listeners, and we love what we're doing here. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't. So we'll look forward to the next 20.
Yeah,
definitely.
As long as you don't get canceled.
I know. Let's see what the network heads think about all of our stuff. I really liked how it seemed like that guy Vinny was like it was like Kevin Bacon. He had like 6 degrees of separation from everybody in wrestling history.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
I was like
super very knowledgeable. Yeah,
that was awesome. But yeah, here at Shredding from Gorilla, we talk about the indies and all, not the indies. What do you call it? The territories and all this stuff. That was a primary source, an actual. If our listeners probably they don't understand, a primary source is somebody who's actually there. So we weren't even born yet, but we somehow tracked some guy down who was there, and we got him on our thing. But speaking of territories, I think Mikey Cash has a few match recommendations regarding this guy we were talking about. Lance.
So if you go on to, so here's what I did, because the search function on the WWE Network app is so terrible. I just went onto the WWE Network website, and so you can kind of do it there, and then you just save it to your list. So I would recommend for our listeners to save their sanity to do it that way, but type in Lance Von Erich, and a series of matches come up. And if you can, I would suggest watching Lance's match against Rick Rude from June 14th, 1986, from World Class Championship Wrestling. All of these matches are from World Class. There's another match against Gino Hernandez, who Vinny was talking about before. So it feels very fitting that we would have this match on there. Another one is Lance and Brody tag teaming against One Man Gang and Rick Rude. And those are the 3 matches I would say check out for right now. They're really great. There's a ton of more on there, but you could just watch Lance in action, kind of see, how he even like developed as a wrestler. He was pretty good. He was pretty damn good. And I think Vinny said it right. He was kind of like this Forrest Gump of wrestling. He just sort of like fell into it. This guy just approaches him out of the blue and says, "Have you considered wrestling?" And then next thing you know, he's doing it for how many years? So it was really cool to see. So check those out.
Awesome. Yeah, we will. Leader of Men, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Well, just like anything else, gentlemen, there's still always a little moment in time to get ready for the WWE stock. And just like anything, the stock price today is $46.41. So the Peacock deal has gone through, skyrocketed up to 50 plus, and now it's doing what it continues to do, which is just plummet back down to earth and potentially down to fucking hell where it belongs. So I don't know why I'm so harsh on it tonight. Probably because I didn't make any money off it yet, and now that it's continuing to plummet, just like a bad fucking Price is Right theme, Fuck me. I can't believe I didn't make any money off the WWE stock, and now I have no chance at it again.
Well, a good friend of mine, Bobby, once told me that, you always have a choice, right? You don't have to actually buy the stock, just like you don't have to watch wrestling, but we do it anyways, right?
That's right.
because we're faithful and loyal fans. That's what it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, Bobby, and not only did you not make any money on it, you actually paid them money to watch their stupid shit on the network.
Yeah, Bobby, you've been in the red for years.
Yeah.
Oh, and I have no shot of getting out anytime soon. So, Vince.
Okay, yeah. So I think Vito doesn't have anything to add.
I got
Is that
nothing
correct?
today. I'm very
All
pumped
right.
about the episode today. That's all I needed.
Yeah,
Yep.
same.
Had a great time. This is one of the best we've had. I got to tell you that it just felt like Bobby said, really rewarding to actually have some. It was just awesome. So let's do it again. And thanks to everybody for listening. From _Gorilla, join us on Twitter and have a great
now
week.
Return your perception of reality to you. Until next time.